All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Creator Etiquette. Today's guest is actually one of my dream guests, so this is really exciting for me. I have Zach Nadler, co-founder and CEO of Vayner Speakers here. He has booked over 4,000 keynotes in his career. Guys, that's a lot. And he also spent over 9 years at CAA as a speaker agent to some of the biggest entrepreneurs, athletes, and people in the politics space. So today's episode is going to be all about speaking. Let's get into it. Hi, Zach.
Hi, Gigi.
We are at Possible in Miami. Tell me what you guys are doing here, because I saw that big yacht outside.
We don't do anything quietly, that's for sure. But no, I mean, this is such a great conference. It's amazing. This is only in year 4.
Yeah.
I came down here last year for the first time. It's actually funny. We had Gary as the keynote 2 years ago, and I didn't even come down for that. And then he was talking about how great it was. So I was like, I have to come back. So we did it last year, and it's such a great opportunity.
Yeah.
So many people are here. That the networking is just unbelievable, and I think that's honestly why so many people come to events. The speakers are usually the draw, but the networking is why they stay.
Yeah.
So my job isn't going anywhere, but it certainly is changing.
Yeah. Okay. So just to get into it really quickly, what is the best way to capture someone's attention at a conference like this in terms of going up to them, making a nice first impression?
Not selling.
Okay.
If you walked around this event, you'll see everyone is just going up to others and like immediately into pitch mode.
Yeah.
And I think that it's such a turnoff. I think the reality is that the opportunity at an event like this is to connect with someone. You sell them later.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I'm going to steal, and I'll probably do this more than once from my partner, Gary Vaynerchuk, right? He wrote the book, Jab, 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 Right Hook. It's about doing the small things before you do the big thing. And I think too many people are coming to this event just like with one thing on their mind.
Yeah.
They want to sell. And I think the reality is that if you go in, build a relationship, you have a much better chance for a sale later on.
Yeah. Can you talk to me a little bit more about what it takes to build a relationship with somebody who could actually be a great business partner?
For me, it's always just been like truth, honesty, and transparency. I think like being someone that can be counted on. So if you say like, let's get together in New York, it's like, okay, well, do you actually mean that? Or are we just like trying to get rid of the conversation, right? It's like actually engaging with someone, trying to find commonalities and connection points. And that is usually what leads to a relationship, whether it's for business or personal. So it's those kind of things that I think work here. And I can't tell you how many times I've been to an event and it's actually led to like a lifelong friendship, even if it's been someone backstage.
Right.
I did an event yesterday with someone I met 12 years ago at an event. And so it's real. And back then we bonded over bourbon. It wasn't like we were bonding over anything really wild. And we still to this day get together and our families are now friends. So I think these are the types of things where the amount of work we've done is great, but it's the personal stuff that actually keeps a relationship going.
Yeah, I love that. I am always telling people relationships and developing your skill set in the creator world, because that's predominantly who I'm talking to here, is the number one thing you could do. If you're horrible to work with, nobody's going to want to rebook you. If you're fun to work with and you're always excited to try something new and do a quick turnaround, they're always going to love you. But before we get into that, and again, this is going to be kind of like the overarching theme of today's episode, which is what do creators need to understand about public speaking in order to actually get booked?
Oh, yeah. That's everyone wants to know that, right? I think most of the people I talk to, it's about growth.
Right.
It's about, hey, I've not spoken before, but I want to be speaking. It's I'm speaking, but I want to get paid to speak. It's I'm getting paid, but I want to get paid more. It's always about growth. And so it's something that I always talk about because I think it's, it's kind of funny. No one's like a 12-year-old and they're like, I want to work in speaking. Right. Whether it's be a speaker or be a speaking agent. And now everyone is a speaker, right? You just throw it up in your Instagram profile and suddenly you're a speaker. It doesn't even matter if you've actually done it.
Yeah.
So it is something that I think is a growing opportunity for creators because it's a more wrapped audience. You're getting in front of people and actually being able to deliver a voice, a message to them when you have their attention, as opposed to worrying about those first 3 seconds.
Yeah. I also love that advice because every creator comes to me and says, well, how'd you start speaking? And I'm like, well, one day I got an email from the programmers at Advertising Week and they said, can you come on our virtual panel in 2021? And I was like, okay, sure. And then from there, I was like, wait, when COVID's over, I want to do this on conference stages. I want to do this in New York at roundtables and at events. So what would be your advice to somebody who literally is like, that very beginner, that person that is a creator that maybe they're well known for their millions of followers. Maybe they're well known for being an entrepreneur. How would you suggest that they just get started without the simple words of just get started?
Yeah, well, that's always it, right? It's like the same thing. You want to write a book, how do you do it? start
you write
writing,
the book.
right?
Yeah.
Like that's how you do it. But I think creators in particular, it's really interesting because, I've been doing this long enough that before creators were officially called creators, right? It was people who had influence. Like I've worked with people who were the biggest stars on Vine, right? Who were like some of the biggest aggregators at the time when that was a dirty word. And I think the reality is those people had success at the beginning, but now it is a much more crowded marketplace. So to stand out, you got to have a message. And I think for any creator who wants to do it, you have to figure out what your message is. And I'm always telling people who ask me what I'm looking for, it's like, I'm looking for someone who is different, who is unique, or who is better.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean better as a creator, better as a speaker. It's better at what they do. And so oftentimes when creators come to me about speaking, it's the same thing. It's here's how I did my thing. Here's how I made a success. Here's how I became a creator. Well, most companies who are paying for speakers aren't booking that.
Right.
That doesn't really help. Well, then it's okay. Well, I can talk about personal branding. It's like, you sure can, but so can everyone else. And I think the reality is you got to find that niche. You got to find that place that you can present something unique and different to an audience that is going to work for not just the people in the audience, but the company who's paying you.
Right.
And I think when you start thinking about it like that, like, why would Coca-Cola bring me in to talk to their employees? It's like, okay, that makes you rethink about what you're talking about. So when you're getting started, start with that. Start with why you want to go speak, what you're going to speak about, and is it unique enough?
And ladies and gentlemen, it cannot be your journey to becoming a creator. It can't be personal branding, and it can't be how to grow like 100,000 or 1,000,000 followers, unless it's like a truly exceptional thing.
And it can't be here's how to go viral.
Right.
Right? Because nobody can guarantee that.
Yeah.
Right? You can manufacture it, but you can't guarantee it.
So I know we just talked about like setting the stage here, level setting. Behind the scenes, what does that take on the creator side to build out their portfolio? I know you've talked about, yes, like just get the iPhone clips at first, just get a couple pictures of you with a mic, get some pictures of you on a podcast. And that's how I started. I just started marketing myself actually before the stages were really available for me. But if a creator is starting from scratch and or not even a creator, somebody, it could be working a full-time job and maybe they want to be the speaker representative at a conference like Possible. What kind of exercises and practice should they start doing to prepare themselves for these opportunities?
Well, I think there's two things. One, it is just reps when you're actually talking about being on stage.
Yeah.
Right. It matters to be able to get out there, speak in front of a crowd, a tough crowd, and figure out what works and what doesn't. Right. It's the same idea as being a creator. You put a piece out and you see whether or not it works or it doesn't, and then you course correct along the way. But I think we were talking about this, and I know you're a big fan of LinkedIn, but that's a great place to test ideas.
Yeah.
And I think the engagement on LinkedIn, whatever you do as a creator, what you do off screen, what you like doing to prepare, that's what you do best.
Right.
Right. And so I think LinkedIn is telling you this is what we want you to talk about when they
Yeah.
put those top news clips on the upper right corner. Go engage with that. If there's something that actually resonates with you, go look at that, figure it out, and then engage. And then what you're getting is real-time feedback on what people think. And it's not repeating the same message over and over. It's trying out new messages, trying out new things. And it's like just grabbing a little bit of kernel, right, of an idea that you can then extrapolate later on. But you're seeing in real time what goes on. And then you can try that stuff on stage and figure out what's going to actually be. A 45-minute talk is a lot different than a 2-sentence comment on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But that 2-sentence comment will give you a sense as to, A, do people like what I have to say? Is this message resonating? And is this something that can be grown into something else?
Yeah.
I think that's something that people aren't doing enough of.
I totally agree. In terms of the fee ladder, which we're going to get into, there's another component of this that I think is really important, which is, are you going to do a podcast? Are you going to do a panel? Are you going to do a fireside? Are you going to do a keynote or a roundtable? Can you just talk through that ranking and what is the most valuable when you're first starting versus what is the most valuable once you're established?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that, I've been doing this long enough that I remember when if you weren't doing a keynote, it was like, oh, we're not even going to consider you.
Yeah.
And then the reality is that all shifted because I think people saw, or two things. One, they saw that, a fireside chat can actually be great. You can cover more ground. You can get more people, more celebrities. And those celebrities are like, I don't have time to write a speech, but if you want me to come, sure, just interview me. We can talk life and career, right? So it became like an opportunity. And I think that for creators to look at it, it's, if you want to differentiate yourself, be a speaker. The hardest thing to do is speak. Give 45-minute talk, straight, no slides. If you can do that, you can do everything else. So start there, and then everything else follows. You get big enough, then you can tell people, hey, I'll be flexible on my fee if you interview me as opposed to making me do a keynote. But until then, you got to give that keynote. You got to be strong enough to do that, and the rest will follow.
See, every creator I know does the reverse, and that is the bottleneck that they face in getting paid.
Absolutely. I mean, look, it's also like being a moderator. It's a great opportunity. But if you think about what the budgets are for speakers, it's a lot lower for moderators.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of figure out like, hey, if you are going for the best opportunity, the other stuff will follow down the road.
Yeah.
Like you can always sit down and do an interview with someone, but to be able to get up on stage, that's the most precious thing for a group. But I think you talk about all these different formats. To me, it's actually one of the things that's been great about the last 10 years is events have really embraced that.
Yeah.
And they've figured out that all of these formats have a place, they have an opportunity, and they will work when you mix them all together. Because I think the days of just like standing at a podium lecturing, that's gone.
Yeah, it's
right.
boring.
There certainly are still places that does that, but no one wants that, right? We'd much rather be like engaged with, and we're hearing all the time now we want an engaging presentation, something that's interactive, and that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
But you got to start with being able to actually give a speech and then figure out how to engage.
So how important is the curation of your slides, and are your speakers the ones doing that, or is it their design team?
Our speakers do their own slides.
Wow.
But I will say, I am of the belief you don't need slides. Slides should be additive, right? They should be something that complements what you're doing. My favorite use of slides, a punchline.
Okay.
You say one thing and then a slide comes up and everyone starts laughing. You don't have to say anything. The worst slides are the ones that are just bullet points and you're literally saying the same thing that's on the slide. If that's what you're doing, you don't need slides. The
Right.
slides don't need you either. So I would always say, if you can give the speech without slides, that's what you want to strive for. The slides should be something that enhance the presentation. If you're showing clips, if you're showing pictures, those kind of things work. I also think that when you're using slides with a lot of like animations and videos, you're setting yourself up for potential tech nightmares.
Yes.
I just can't tell you how often I've seen an AV team just scrambling in the back of house because they can't figure out what's going wrong. Like even with AV checks, stuff will go wrong.
Yeah.
I had a client who accidentally put timers on her slides. So even though she had the clicker, the slides were just going on their own.
Oh, no.
It was a nightmare, right? You don't want to lean into that. Whereas the speaker that I work with, who does the most speaking every year, doesn't use slides.
Wow.
He has one slide that goes up behind him for the entire talk.
I love
That's
that.
it. So like if you can do that and you can capture the attention, the slides aren't necessary. The slides should only be additive.
I love that. I remember, I think it was either Date with Destiny or UPW with Tony Robbins. And at one point, I mean, that production is a production. And he has like a monster AV team. But there have been times where they're like, hey, what's going on? And then all of a sudden it's like, poof, it's there.
Yeah.
And he just keeps rolling. So can you talk a little bit about that moment when a creator kind of stands the test of time, when there's a tech failure, when they're maybe sick and they have to just rally and get up on stage? I feel like a lot of creators, or not just creators, but people I know sometimes are like, I don't know, maybe I'll just back out. Because they're scared of how they're going to be perceived if nothing is perfect. But I personally think that there never is perfect. We just are, and we're human, and that makes us human. And I just want to know more about your perspective on that and how you coach speakers through moments when they're, messing up.
Well, honestly, like it's all about like honesty and transparency for me. And I think you said it, like be human, but remember you're dealing with the human on the other side. So the worst thing you could do is not make a decision and then until the very last minute. And then they're left scrambling like we have 45 minutes to fill. What are we going to do? But if you go to them and say, hey, I'm not feeling well, right? I'm going to try and tough this out, but I want to give you the heads up, right? Because you're like, hey, I can probably do this, but I may not be able to.
Yeah.
Then you're giving them the heads up. And they may say like, hey, if you can't do it, like, don't go crazy. We'll stretch this. We'll move this. It's fine. Or like, we really need it. If you think you can do it, like, let's try to make it work. Right. But then I've also seen people where they're like, hey, I got to be honest with you. Like, I'm not in the best headspace or something. Like, I'm sick. Like, would you mind if I got a stool?
Right.
Right. Would you mind if we made this a Q&A? I think groups are way more likely to be reasonable and flexible if you're honest with them.
Yeah.
And if they're not, like, then you care less about it because they're not going to be very thoughtful either. Right. So I think it's about kind of that honesty and transparency and kind of figuring out what a working strategy is with the group because they're dealing with all sorts of other problems. And I always say, like, I started my career running events. I used to do these celebrity golf tournaments and it was 60 celebrities, 4 days. It was all this craziness. And you are going to have a million headaches when you're running an event. So as a speaker, you just want to be one less headache. Don't, like you said it before, like you want to be like a nice person, like don't be an asshole. That should be a rule. right?
Yeah.
Show up, be ready, be thoughtful, be punctual, and recognize that you're not the only thing happening. And so if you have to make an adjustment, talk to the group and figure
Right.
out what can work for them too, not just you.
So people really wanted me to ask you, how do you go from 0 to 1K and then obviously up the fee ladder? What does it take to command those prices from the audience? And then a little bit later, I want to get into like, what are they actually buying?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the reality is it's supply and demand, right? I didn't do that well in economics in college, but I can tell you that like I understand at least supply and demand, right? You raise your fee when the value of your time goes up, right? So if you've never given a speech, you probably shouldn't be charging unless you know you're going to be amazing. And most people think they're going to be amazing and they're not. But you charge when suddenly it's like, it doesn't make sense for me to do that. And I like to think of it as like a scale, right? Both sides are getting value, right? If you're just getting started out, go speak for free and say, hey, I'm giving you stage time, right? Can you record this for me? It's a very reasonable thing to ask, right? And if they say, sorry, we're not recording it, it's like, okay, would you mind if I brought a tripod set up and I filmed it myself? They're not going to say no. Like, what do they care? And then I think if you are like, hey, it's actually more beneficial for you if I speak at your event, that's when you can start charging more money. Because I think what they're buying is not just the stage time. They're buying prep time.
Yep.
They're also buying your name and likeness. They're buying the branding. They're buying the content and your reputation.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be coming and speaking at an event and you want to get paid, make sure you're worth it by preparing and by giving them what they've asked for.
Yeah. And so when you're making that jump, and I mean, I'm sure you have people that get paid 5, 6, 7 figures. Can you just talk a little bit about how those people command the room and why the money is coming to them? Like, what is that company buying that makes them go, oh, easy 100K? Easy $1 million, you know?
There's no such thing as an easy $1 million. And honestly, like my father once said to me, like, don't forget, like $100,000 is $100,000 no matter how much money you have.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to recognize like, this is still real money. And I always tell the young people on my team, like, don't forget, we're talking about like the amount of money people spend on cars, on homes. Like this is not a small amount of money, but you have to be thoughtful about that and make sure that everyone on the whole supply chain understands that. And so I think like, Gary Vaynerchuk, my partner, is like the best example of this. I love using it because the man commands $250,000 for a speech now, right? But the first talk he gave, not only did he do it for free, he actually brought wine from his father's liquor store and offered to serve it at happy hour in exchange for speech time.
Yeah.
That's the commitment that you have to have. And then he kept doing it more and more. And I remember him telling me he was the best speaker that I was on my roster. And I couldn't sell him for 10 grand. He just wasn't a name recognized by most people.
Right.
Then he wrote a book, wrote a second book, and then it started to snowball because he was really good, but he didn't have the credibility yet.
Yeah.
As that credibility grew, his name recognition grew, and the word of mouth grew. People knew what he could do.
Yeah.
But you raise your fee when you want to do less speaking. Because if you think about it, there's fewer people with a $100,000 budget than a $10,000 budget.
Of course.
So you actually need to be pragmatic about what you're charging and what you are actually trying to do. So one of the questions I ask speakers all the time is, why do you want to speak? Is it to make money?
Yeah.
Is it to grow your brand? Is it to sell more books? Is it biz dev? You just like to travel? All of these things should input kind of what you want to charge. Because I think the reality is like, it doesn't matter what you charge. What matters is it worth it for you? I've seen people say, I don't want to go to this is amazing. An amazing speaker who's probably done over 100 events a year, multiple times, said to me, I don't want to go to New Orleans. I just don't like the city. I'm like, okay, I can't convince you otherwise. That's not a money thing. And then other people were like, hey, I'll do this for less because I am obsessed with this company.
Right.
So I think it's more about what does it matter to that individual. So for creators, oftentimes you're going to have more success producing content. You're going to make more money in advertising and everything else you're doing for views than you will speaking. And I think that what happens is successful creators, there can sometimes be a little bit of a difficult time in figuring out why am I actually speaking? And I can make more money creating. It's a great problem to have, but it's just a completely different industry. It's like saying like, why can I make more money doing a movie than I can doing a podcast? Right? Like it's a different skill. It's a different thing. So you have to be thoughtful about that.
What is your take on going to speaker masterminds, speaker workshops, and learning from others on how to do what it is you want to do versus just committing to something and throwing yourself off a ledge and just doing it?
I think I'm trying to choose my words carefully. I think there are good masterminds, there are good workshops and things like that, but there's also probably even more bad ones. And I think that I think anyone can be a speaker. Not everyone should be a speaker. And I think, we all start at 0, but we don't start with 0.
Right.
So you have to be self-aware enough to know what do you have and what are you looking for. I'm a believer that we all learn differently. Whether, if you read, do you read or do you listen to audiobooks, right? If you, do you like watching, are you a visual learner or do you take notes? Like all of these different things matter. And I think that people often look at these workshops and masterminds as like a cheat code.
Yeah.
I'm going to get ahead faster. It's not always the case. You can get great advice and great thoughts, but it's also all available online anyways. So I don't think anyone needs to do it, but I think it's sometimes like a safety blanket. Like this is going to be my opportunity. But I think that the easiest way to do it is actually go talk. Doesn't matter who you're talking to, film it and be critical.
Yeah.
Right? If you're actually willing to look at the film and see like, oh, wow, I really came out and I was nervous. I stuttered over my words. I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't have the audience. I wasn't engaging. Like, then you have things you can work on. As opposed to having someone say, hey, be confident when you walk out on stage. Like, make sure you know what you're going to say. Talk to the audience. Figure out how to engage. You're going to know all those things. It's just whether or not you need someone else to tell you. And that's something you have to ask yourself.
It's a mindset shift.
100%.
So is it critical that somebody who wants to become a speaker has a social following and a personal brand?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And it's probably surprising to hear that. There's one of the best speakers out there right now, just got on Instagram for the first time in October.
Wow.
He has 9,000 followers. Like, not that big, but he'll do over 100 talks this year.
Okay.
So it's not necessary, but it helps. I think you asked, like, what are people buying? I hear now people say to me, hey, like, we want to book Gary, but we only need him for 10 minutes on stage. I'm like, you don't want to book Gary. You just want his name on your ticket.
Right.
On the poster. You're trying to sell tickets. And to me, that's like, it's a bit of a red flag, but it's also like, you're not actually looking for the content, you're looking for the brand. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, let's all be honest about what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So I think like, you don't need to have that personal brand, but it helps. Right? If you have a personal brand and you can actually move tickets and people are coming for you, that matters.
Yeah.
And so if you're building your speaking career and you can say, hey, I will post for you and draw more people, the organizers are going to love that. That's going to make you more valuable for them.
Right.
You shouldn't lead with that, but it's an opportunity that you can certainly kind of pull that lever when you need to.
Quick break. This episode is in paid partnership with Adobe Acrobat. And after what you've just heard Zach break down, this is one that actually tracks. Here's the thing nobody tells you about leveling up as a paid speaker. The talk really isn't the hard part. It's everything around the talk, from the research to the pile of event briefs from organizers in your inbox to the custom deck for each specific presentation, the audience prep you do, but never quite have time for. Multiply that by 10, 15, 30 talks a year, and prep starts being where your training wheels come off, and all of a sudden, you're acting like a true pro. Most of you know I've been an Adobe ambassador for 4+ years, and the way I prep for keynotes now is completely different than ever before. I now drop everything I need for a talk into one Adobe Acrobat PDF space, including my research, the event brief, the audience deck, my old slides, web links to the brand's presence, my content, and more, if you can believe it. Then the AI assistant pulls the line by line for me and references each document when I need. When I'm ready to start building my deck, I click Generate Presentation, and Acrobat builds the first draft from the actual context I've preloaded in. Then I can edit, personalize, and get to present it live. And most importantly, I just get back half the day I used to lose to a blank slide. And I can practice even more, which is exactly what I need to be doing more of these days. If you're trying to move up Zach's fee ladder this year, it is not just about the talk. It's about the infrastructure around it. So make sure that you try Adobe Acrobat today to level up as a speaker. The link will be in the show notes. I just came off of one of my biggest keynotes ever, and it came after talking to Zach. So I had his little voice in the back of my head the entire time. But a tool that I loved using throughout the entire process of building my keynote and then actually giving a live demo on stage was Adobe Acrobat. And the whole purpose of this keynote was to talk about improving the brand creator relationship and overall help close the professional development gap that creators experience when working with brands, and that brands can do to support creators so that they aren't so disjointed. So, what I did was walk through my specific creator etiquette workflows, which was such a fun experience to do up on stage. I talked about where briefs often fail with my, concepts there, and surprise, surprise, they'll have to hire me to speak to hear those. And then I talked about my creator etiquette frameworks of the 4 C's that you need, which is the creator fit, the constraint, the call to action, and of course, the context in which you're hiring a creator. And if you don't have any of those answered, you are always going to struggle with a true, really greatly performing piece of content. So what I did was walk them through my exact process you've heard me talk about before, where I add the brief in, I add any specific context about the creator. I also added in some creator etiquette resources, like some email templates that they can use, along with the code of conduct that I have created as well. From there, you can start asking the AI assistant about different things that it sees as a red flag, how to respond to the brand, or if you're the brand, how to send an offer to a creator, talking about certain pieces of their workflow that you absolutely love. And from there, I also showed the audience how to build a custom AI assistant that they can use that's tailored to their voice, so that, again, anytime they're doing this, they're not starting from zero. They're starting with a tool that has context about who they are and what they want to show up to the table with. So make sure you guys are trying Adobe Acrobat today. I absolutely love it for speaking gigs. It's totally changed the game for me, and I'm sure that it will change the game for you too, especially when you are trying to expand out of brand partnerships into other opportunities like speaking on stage. I feel like a lot of people that I know that are speakers that want to speak do want the royal treatment. So can you talk a little bit more about what gets somebody rebooked over and over again in terms of how it is to work with them as a human, in terms of the skills that people need to develop in order to be a people person, to pick up and have that conversation wherever, to, like you said, not sell them immediately, but just be themselves and make people fall in love with them. I mean, people fall in love with great speakers all the time.
Absolutely.
because of their quirks, because of their energy and all those different traits. So I'm really genuinely just curious, what is a worst case situation to get yourself blacklisted and what is a best case situation to get yourself booked over and over again?
Yeah, so I won't use names, but I can tell you someone I will not book again, right? I booked this woman, very successful entrepreneur, for an event. She got on stage. It was supposed to be a 45-minute speech, very intimate group, about 100 women. And she's on stage for 5 minutes. She goes, you know what? I think this would be much better if this was a Q&A. Why don't we just go straight into Q&A? Oh. And I saw the event planner just turn white because they wanted a speech. This was not the plan. Then that same person took the car afterwards and said, hey, instead of going to the hotel, do you mind if I just take it to dinner? She kept the car for 10 hours. That was a couple extra $1,000.
Right.
That's the way you get blacklisted.
Wow.
I think it's something where, it's great if you remember every single person's name from the AV team when you walk into the hotel and do all that. You don't need to. Just don't be an asshole, right? Be nice. Be thoughtful. I often think, too, like if you are running an event, book someone and you see what it's like. And then do what would work for you. I think when you put yourself into other people's shoes, it really makes a difference. So it's just about like kind of doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
If you say I'm going to be there at 8, show up at 7:55, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Remember, like I said before, every event has headaches. You just don't want to be one of them. So even just doing that, your baseline off to a great start. Then if you go above and beyond, if you find ways to over deliver, if you stay longer for a meet and greet, if you are willing to shake hands, if you bring books, if you are posting about the event before, during, and after, if you do all these things, that ingratiates yourself more and more.
Of course.
And then all these event planners are talking. They see this stuff online and they talk. And I can't tell you how often it's an event planner that says to another speaker, hey, who do you like? And those speakers are at events all the time, and they see other speakers who are good.
Right.
So they're not going to lie. They're going to tell them, this is what I think.
Yeah.
So you want to be the best possible version of yourself and offer up whatever you can to an event planner to make their life easier and their event better.
I love that advice. What is your opinion on conferences versus private corporate events or, employer events?
They both serve a purpose. I often think of it as there are some events where they need to move tickets, right? And so they're bringing in a big name because they need to fill the room.
Yep.
And there's other events that the employees have to be there. It doesn't matter who's there. And I think it's a very different thing. And I actually often ask this question when I'm booking a speaker. I want to know, what are you actually looking for? When you ask me about all these big names, is it because you need a draw, or because people are expecting it, or you actually think they're the best speaker? Because I think it's different. And oftentimes, like I mean, I joke about this all the time. My mom is a 75-year-old woman in Western Massachusetts. She doesn't know who Simon Sinek is, and he's one of the biggest speakers in the world. You don't need to have a huge brand to be a great speaker.
Right.
But that also means that you don't have to be, you could be a great speaker even if you don't have that brand.
Yeah.
So it's very valuable, and I think it's something where everyone has a different value. Everyone has different things that they need and can bring to an event. And so it's about just understanding what the event is. But what I will say is, especially for creators, figure out the corporate market. That's where the money is. Conferences are great, but until you become like the number one guy or gal and doing anything, like you're not going to draw as much, and there's going to be another creator who can do it just as well as you.
Yeah.
Right. But those corporate events, that's 80% of our business. I'd much rather see that somebody spoke to a small, medical device sales company in Atlanta than they spoke to Google for free.
Yeah.
That matters to me. I want to know that you can get in front of a group of people that you don't actually have a lot in common with,
Right.
and you can help them, and they liked you.
Wow. I love that also, because everybody in my world seems to want the big name behind you. They just want the big audience also. But speaking to a room of 10 people is, I think, just as hard, if not harder,
for sure.
Because you got to see their reactions rather than you're on stage and you're kind of blinded by the lights and it feels like you're just up there. So what do you think about environments like that for
I think
creators?
it's so much harder.
Yeah.
A small room is really tough. I always say, like, if it's going to be 50 people or less, you actually want it to do as a Q&A, like an interview style, because it's just, it's awkward almost when you're like just like talking to a bunch of people. You're on the same level as them. There's no stage. It's really hard.
Yeah.
But I think the big stages too, they're just as hard because it's hard to like single out people and actually connect with the audience. But I think it's valuable. And I think that the best speakers can do it no matter what. But that takes time and energy and reps.
Yeah.
And I think that everyone likes the big conference because it's showy. You're like on a ticket, you're on a poster, like you're seeing all these people. But like the reality is that the speakers who are most successful, the majority of their events, I would say like the average, you're talking like 400 people.
Right.
Not thousands. But most people are like, I want the biggest rooms. It's like, sure. But the biggest rooms are also providing you more value. So do you need them more than they need you? Or is it the other way around?
How many reps does someone have to do before they can, consider themselves a speaker or get paid to speak?
Once somebody asks you to speak, you are a speaker. Once you get on stage, you are a speaker. I don't know that it takes the same amount of reps for anyone. So Jesse Itzler, who's one of my clients, he's been speaking for years. He's phenomenal. He's more of like a one-man show. He shows up with a DJ. He leaves the stage sweaty. It's incredible. But I give him so much credit because he doesn't need to do this, and he still practices in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
Right? Like he knows he can still be better. He knows that it's a craft that you have to work on. You have to rehearse. You got to get better. Anyone who thinks that they're done when they first get on stage, it's absolutely not true. You always have to be getting better. You always have to improve, figure out things. Like one of my favorite kind of tricks is when you do a Q&A with the audience, when you hear the same question more than once, you know they want to hear that. Work it into your talk.
Right.
They're telling you, I want to know more about this. So figure out how to weave that in, but make sure that it still makes sense for the audience, right? Make sure that it makes sense for the growth of your speech.
Right.
But you want to be able to build up more content over time, and then you can always cycle back to the old stuff.
Yeah.
So use every piece of feedback you get and really grow what you're talking about. But it doesn't make a difference if you say, I'm going to do 5 speeches before I raise my fee or 10 speeches. It's, I'm ready. Because once you start charging money, then the expectations are on.
Yeah.
Then you really have to deliver. It's no more like this is a freebie. It's like, no. Somebody's paying you. You got to really make sure that you win.
Yeah. What is the biggest shift happening in the industry that you're excited about and that you're a little fearful of?
It's kind of the same thing.
Okay.
So I think AI is coming for us all. I think AI has created this world where any speaker can talk about anything because they can have AI write the speech. And everyone becomes an AI speaker because they can have AI write the speech. But I also think that means the best speakers who don't need AI to perform for them will stand out.
Right.
And that's who we work with. We really try to identify people who are rock solid, know what they're talking about, have lived experience. I think that in today's day and age, it is that lived experience people want.
Right.
They want to know you've done it. They don't want theory, right? And so if you really want to succeed, you have to be able to deliver that. And so while it's both scary that, like, I hear it all the time, how do you find the speaker? Oh, well, we just searched on, ChatGPT and their name came up. And it's like, that's terrifying because, like, we all know what the results are when you do these things.
Yeah.
So it's not always the best, but it's an opportunity to it's an outside voice, right? It's just like if you were to have a focus group in your company and say, hey, all right, everyone, like, who do you like, right? I do this before every one of our team meetings. We do a thing called what are you consuming? I want to know, what podcasts are you listening to? What movies are you watching? What books are you reading? I think it's interesting for us all to see what's happening in culture because the diversity of all of us is what matters.
Right.
And I think that it's the same thing. It's having another voice. Now it's a computer, but it's still a voice that's giving you ideas.
Yeah.
And so it's a little scary that this is what we're going to, but it's also an opportunity for the best speakers to really stand out.
What's your opinion on younger kids or younger people in their early careers, like myself, I'm 27, becoming a speaker? And how is that different? I mean, to set the stage. I'm talking to the guy that works with Gary Vee. So obviously Gary Vee is well into his career. He's done hundreds, if thousands of talks. And at this point, I'm not trying to be like that in my career. I'm 27. What is your perspective on young people having kind of like the chutzpah to just go out there and start speaking?
You should. I think it's fascinating. I mean, there's you could find clips of Jerry Seinfeld in the 80s talking about how the number one fear in the world is public speaking.
Right.
Right? Not death, public speaking.
Yeah.
That's shifted if now all of us are wanting to be creators and we want to be speakers. So I think what's happening and is fascinating is that young people are seeing it as an opportunity that a previous generation never did, right? Like when I started in this industry, like Wally Amos from Famous Amos Cookies was like a big time speaker. He even did an episode of The Office as like the motivational speaker, right? Now you can book like the biggest entrepreneurs in the world to speak at an event. And so it has just evolved, and there's also more events than ever before. And so I think that any young person should want to get on stage. It's an amazing skill. Even if you're not going to get paid to speak, learn to speak.
Yeah.
It sets you apart for presentations in boardrooms, for just general meetings, for meeting people one-on-one.
Yeah.
It's a skill that you have to learn. But I think you have to also be self-aware. You got to recognize that, like, if you're 20 years old and you've been a successful creator, you launched a product that sold 1 million cans or whatever it might be, right? That doesn't mean that going in front of a group of, 30 to 50-year-old sales executives from a company, they're going to care about any of that. You're not walking in as this big shot. You're walking in as a 20-year-old kid who's done something.
Right.
You have to prove yourself. And so I think it's something that has to be earned, but that doesn't mean you can't earn it. I mean, I remember the last time I went to South by Southwest, it was almost this guy's fault. But he came up to me and he was 15 years old and he was like, "You work with Gary?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "What do you do?" He's like, "I'm a consultant." I was like, "What do you consult on?" He was like, "Gen Z." I was like, "But like what's your background? How do you consult on Gen Z?" He's like, "Well, I'm a member of Gen Z, so I can help people understand our generation." I'm like, "So you're just like a person who can answer questions. You're not a consultant."
Right.
Right? So I think it's something where it's like, there's too much of that. There's too much of, you should owe me because I'm me. When its reality is you have to earn that respect.
Yeah.
But if you start young, you're going to be a lot better when you're older.
Yeah.
You can certainly start older. It happens all the time. But the earlier you start, you're getting a leg up for sure.
What would make you handpick someone out of a crowd of, hundreds or thousands of applications to be considered at Vayner Speakers?
Well, this is happening every day. We've turned down thousands of speakers. I think the reality is I want people who are unique, they're different, they're really good, but they also have something that hasn't been tapped yet.
Right.
We're looking for, I kind of joke about this, we're looking for underexposed talent who deserves to be overexposed, right? Doesn't mean they should be, it just means that's what they deserve.
Yeah.
So we often look for people where there's something missing from what they're doing, whether it's their speech topics are upside down, or they haven't been promoted, right? Or there's no marketing on them. Or we started working with Carrie Walsh Jennings, and as one of the most successful Olympians of all time, dominant beach volleyball player, she just never really had someone who took speaking seriously. It was all just somebody saying "Hey, would you do the speech?" And she'd be like, "Sure." As opposed to something, "Hey, she's available for speaking."
Right.
It's a very subtle shift, but we put her out there in a different way, and it's worked. Those are the types of things that we look at, is how can we be additive to someone? People often come to us and they think we're just going to be the unlock, that we're holding the keys to everything.
Right.
We don't pick and choose who goes to every event. We just educate customers on what's possible. So For us, it's about understanding someone and figuring out how can we use them and our skills to make 1 + 1 equal way more than 2.
And if you were to kind of sound off some of the professional development skills that you offer as a speaker agent, what could someone who's doing speaking or newer to speaking, a new sign, what are they going to get? I mean, you just mentioned branding, you mentioned marketing, you mentioned skills workshops, you mentioned rewriting their talks, their talking points.
We do it all. I mean, I think that every bureau is different. So some bureaus, like, you have to come to us fully ready, and that's it. You know, other bureaus, it's like you're going to pay for an editor to do your sizzle reel.
Right.
We handle all the marketing and sizzle reels, right?
Okay.
There's 5 people on my marketing team. That's more than most other bureaus have, and we're much smaller, right? We do, the number one thing is strategy. Really thinking through, like, how are we going to build this, right? Whether it's saying, hey, your fee is too high. We need to right set and correct the marketplace to build demand, right? Work on materials, work on topics, all that stuff. We're not speech writers. We're not speech coaches. So we like to think that we are a premium brand, that we do not work with necessarily like startup speakers. We want people who already have the ability to get on stage and have something to talk about, but sometimes need that like adjustment of, don't talk about this, talk about that.
Right.
Or here's where the market's taking it.
Right.
We want to be able to provide them with the institutional knowledge we have so that they can be successful in what they're doing. But sometimes they come to us fully baked and ready to go, and it's really just like packaging it and putting it out there. So it always depends, but we kind of, you know, we look through everything, and we have, you know, I also like to think that everyone on my team has a voice. So I want to hear from our logistics team, our marketing team, our sales team. I want to know what they think so that we can address, because at the end of the day, most of the people that I book events with are booking 1 event a year. And that doesn't mean they're ahead of events. They could be the VP of marketing, the CEO, the assistant to the CEO, right? It can be different people. So I want to have input from everyone, because that matters, because that's who I'm dealing with, is everyone.
I love that answer also, because creators specifically do not always think about the value on the other side, because they're so focused on me. And if you're listening, this advice is to make it not about you. Make it about the audience that you're working with here.
I think for creators, it's such a great point, but these people are already doing it. It's another medium, right? Creators know, like, you appreciate your fans, you appreciate your followers, you want to give back to them. When they're asking you things in the DMs, you're using that for your next post, right? Do the same thing with speaking. I think too many people think of it as an entirely different world, and it's like, no, like, it's a different medium, but the ideas are the same. And there's so much. I think if creators looked at speaking as they do creating, I think they'd be much more successful.
Okay, I have a last question and then a couple rapid fires for you.
I guess. I love it.
The last question that I want to ask is about when it is time to walk away. And this could be advice for a speaker that is, you know, saying no to a big stage because they didn't have a budget, or they're saying no to something smaller because they, again, maybe didn't have a budget, or maybe it wasn't the right fit for them. What are some things that people can do in order to handle a loss or walking away from something better than somebody who's just like, screw it, I'll just ignore it, I'll just let it fly off? And then on the agency side, when is it time to end the working relationship?
I would say it goes back to value. I think you really have to look at this. I think, like, if you think about it, like, I talk about starting as a speaker by doing it for free. Well, you could also start by paying for stage time. That happens all the time. And so I think if you look at that, it's like, you should say no to an event when there's no value for you at all. If they're like, we're not going to pay you, we're not going to record it, it's a closed room, you have to pay your own way, we want you to talk about something you're not comfortable talking about, and we're going to sell tickets. Why are you doing it? Like, what value are you getting out of it? Versus saying, like, if you're like, hey, I'm a $25,000 speaker, but I have my son's birthday, right? I don't want to miss that. They're like, well, okay, we can be flexible on timing. Okay, well, what if we make these times work? Can you make it a Q&A, because you're going to bring me 15,000, I'm normally 25. Like, work with someone and be transparent and like talk to them and figure it out. Because I think most people will be flexible if you are honest and I find it amazing how many people do not use honesty as a negotiating tool. If you're just telling people the reality, it's hard for them to say, no, you're wrong. When it's like, this is my truth. And it's like, I can't be there until 12 o'clock because I have this thing. Well, we need to have you before 12. Oh, do you have anything in the afternoon? Like, how badly do you want me? So I think you have to be thoughtful about what that looks like, and walk away when it's just not working. And I think from us with our clients, like, usually, it's funny I say this at the beginning of a working relationship, but like, if it's not working, rarely is one side, I think, it's working and the other side doesn't. Both sides typically know.
Yeah.
And so it's ending a relationship. It's just like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Like, it's awkward. It's not fun. But at the end of the day, it's like, this just isn't working for us.
Yeah.
Right? We've tried this. We've adjusted. We've used strategy. We've done this. We've done that. And it's just not working. But I think it usually works better when you are both aligned on expectations. When we start working with someone, we ask what success looks like. We want to know that. Because if we're coming into this saying like, hey, we book you 20 times a year, that's going to be awesome. They're like, 20? I want it to be booked 80 times a year. Oftentimes I'd look at someone and be like, 80 times is a lot. You really think that's going to be possible? So it's about aligning on expectations first. And then that way you're working towards the same goal as opposed to both people having different expectations. Then you're never going to win.
Okay. I just have a quick thought. I wasn't going to ask
Please.
it, but now I'm going to. How important is it to have a speaker agent before you have a digital agent as a creator versus having a book agent? I mean, I know they all serve a purpose for different things, but let's say somebody wants to be a speaker first, grow as a speaker, grow their personality, grow on the internet, grow in media, whatever. And then from there, they're like, okay, now I'm ready to do the digital partnership. Now I'm ready to build a book and have a book agent. How important is that sequence, and does it matter in what order you get those agents?
I think it really, what matters is what's the priority at the moment.
Okay.
Right? There's no right or wrong way to go about it, and you don't actually need an agent for any of those things, right? Now, I use the analogy, and it's probably getting tired at this point, but like your dentist probably shouldn't be the one to change your oil. Doesn't mean they can't do it, but is it the most efficient and successful way of doing it? Probably not. It's not the best use of their time. Like, no. And I think like, could I do a book deal? Absolutely. I've done plenty of influencer deals. I've done endorsement deals, right? We've helped with TV production deals, but that's not what I do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm an excellent speaker's agent.
Yeah.
Those other things are just like, I have a skill set that can be applied. And so I think oftentimes it's like, do you need help doing these things, or do you think it's the great unlock? Right? Like, I think a digital agent makes a lot of sense because they're going to open doors for you and they're having conversations that you're not having otherwise. But if every deal is coming through your DMs, what purpose are they serving? So it's kind of a difficult thing. Everything is available to you. And I also remind people, like, some of the biggest speakers in the world, Magic Johnson, Seth Godin, the aforementioned Simon Sinek, Mark Cuban, they don't have speaker agents. They don't need speaker agents. An agent is someone who's supposed to be helpful for you. They're going to advance your career in different ways. They're going to apply their knowledge and institutional abilities to what you want, and they're going to be able to help you navigate. I think for creators, the great unlock is if you're dealing with the business side of it, I don't know, 3 hours a day, right? And that's 5 days a week. Well, that's only 15 hours. But what would you do with that 15 hours if somebody else was dealing with that? Because for them, it would probably take 8 to 10 hours because they're an expert in it.
Right.
And then you could apply those 15 hours to being a better creator, producing more. And we've seen this happen with our own clients. When we take over and they're like, I have so much more free time. Now my YouTube views are through the roof. It really does work. And so I think it's something where you have to look at it as an addition. And so, yes, we charge a percentage, and that's a commission that we earn. But we are also not just waiting for the phone to ring. We're making phone calls.
Right.
We're reaching out to people. And when you look at what else you're able to do with that time back, it's a real investment.
I think I'm going to listen to this episode once weekly forever because it was so insightful. You just had the answers, just like boom, boom, boom.
This was great. These were really good questions. I think like creators are in a really interesting space. So right now is like, it's an amazing time to be having it. If you leave this room, you walk around the Possible Conference, everyone's talking about how to activate with creators on brand scale. And so the time is now for creators, and the ones who are doing it right and the ones who are really investing in their own brand and want to build something special have the ability to do it if they're thinking about it.
And I think the future is going to be a brand partnership of somebody coming in. For example, I always talk to brands this way when I'm selling myself on a call. I'm like, I'm not going to work with Maybelline because I'm a Get Ready With Me creator. I'm not. Everybody knows that. But guess what? I do podcast interviews with executives. I get on stages. What better a place to market the product than the real use case? I don't need a Prada lipstick. I would take it, but I don't need it. I could do it with Maybelline. And I'm like, I want to show you right before I get on stage. I want to show you that my lip color is the exact color that I love when I'm doing my video at my desk at home and when I'm on stage. And when I tell that to them, they're like, oh, that's your unique pitch. But
That's
also, not everybody has the money to create that asset. And that's when I say, fine, I'm not going to do a makeup campaign. I won't do it like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think you have to be thoughtful about this. And what I've realized over the last couple of years is speaking has become another vertical, right? When you are doing an Instagram post, you have your audience, right? Not all of them are going to see it, right? When you're on YouTube, you have your audience. Not all of them are going to see every video. When you're on stage, everyone in that room is staring at you, right? You got to deliver. It's a longer time, but you have that time. Use it wisely. And I think, like you're saying, I find the speakers who really are crushing it right now are using the time before and after a speech very wisely.
Yeah. And I also love wearing something sparkly or very bright colors because people always remember that. When
Absolutely. Peacocking works.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So my last segment and question for you is called the Creator Call-In. People submit questions. I look at the Reddit sleuths and all the threads. I also look at the DMs, and somebody said, I got asked to speak at a conference for free for the exposure. It's a real event with a real and a really big audience. Should I take it? And if I do, how do I make sure it actually leads somewhere? Obviously, we did talk about this, but if somebody just asked you.
Really, honestly, the first thing is, does it matter? Do you actually need the exposure?
Yeah.
And if you go to the event, are you missing anything else?
Wow.
Right? If you need the exposure and the time is fine to take off and do that, as opposed to if you have a full-time job or anything like that, go ahead and do it. But before you agree, make sure that you're getting something. Are they covering your travel? Are they videotaping it? Like, those are the types of things that you need to make sure that you're getting the video, that you're not going out of pocket for it, and the exposure is real. Otherwise, like, just if neither of those things don't matter, or you're already busy, then just say to them, hey, like, I'd love to do this, but it has to be worth my time. And at $0, it's not worth my time.
Right. Well, Zach, this has been the most phenomenal conversation. I had so much fun having you here. You guys, you can go find him just by looking him up because he's a big deal. Zach Nadler, LinkedIn, Instagram,
everywhere you
Vayner
can find me.
Yeah. Is there any last words you want to leave people with? A last one-liner?
I think, honestly, there's such an opportunity here. This was such a fun conversation, but I think I talked to so many creators, and I think they all need to be self-aware, but recognize that this is a huge opportunity. So to all those that I've said no to, I hope you take it as an opportunity to grow, because I think that there's so much more that can happen here.
Growth mindset. That's what we're getting at, people. All right. Well, we will see you on the next episode of Creator Etiquette. As I'm sure you've heard if you got to the end of this episode, which I hope you do, this was a masterclass in speaking, everything about the speaker industry. So if you want more on this, either drop some comments and we'll get back to you. Maybe I'll have a second interview with Zach or your roster. Who knows? Never know where this could lead. All right. Bye, guys.